This PSA was brought to you by the Peter G Show.
You may have second thoughts after the show.
Don't drink the faucet. We're really talented. We should get Oscars.
Just pick out a car, for Christ's sake.
No, my name is Peter.
Yeah, I want.
Here's good.
Yeah.
Madam Perry.
I need to get back in the genie bottle.
Louis from Pennsylvania, you're on. He likes it. It's showtime.
Peter G Show, Peter G Show, divorce dad, single dad, divorce dad, single dad, Peter G Show.
That's right, it's showtime. Wednesday, August 17th. Can you believe we're going down on the opposite side of August now? August, halfway through. Slipping away from 2022, which might or might not be a bad thing. But last night, my daughter walks in the door, and it's like 7:30, 7:45, and I'm going, look at it. It's starting to get dark outside earlier again. And she just stops in her tracks, and she just looks at me. She goes, don't you go there. Don't go there. Nobody wants it to. Everybody loves the daylight savings, and we'll have the bitchathon in November when the time clocks change again, and 5 o'clock, everybody's got to go home and go to bed because it's dark out. Oh, I hope everybody's doing really well. Got a great show for you tonight. Just coming up in a few short minutes, I have award-winning dietitian, Miss Katie Chapmon's going to be on. And we're going to talk about health and wellness, always. We keep, bouncing back and forth because you can't ever get too much health and wellness. As we're getting older, it's we're not as bulletproof, and things start changing. Let's just put it that way. Living proof. And we're going to talk to her about some, just good, informative stuff, things that you need to pay attention to. But she's going to be on in just a few short minutes because she's waiting in the wings, and I'm chomping at the bit because, again, health and wellness, never get enough of it. Always learning something. And for those that, missed a show here and there, didn't catch, men's health, women's health, we do this periodically. Now's your chance, folks. So buckle up, sit down, go get the popcorn, get your adult beverage, grab yourself a glass of wine, whatever, and just take in some good information because we have quality stuff here. It doesn't get any better than this. And I mean that. So that's coming up in a few minutes. Ms. Katie Chapmon, health and wellness. Speaking of health and wellness, next week, it's all about health and wellness. Next week, I have coming onto this show, and this is where I'm getting back to the core. As we're getting closer to the holidays, especially, I jump into more about, the root of how the Peter G Show started, and, divorce, single parenting, kids, surviving family issues, things like that. So next week, which is August 24th, Wednesday, August 24th, I'm going to have Mr. Joe Pontarelli, author. He's going to be on this show. He's got a book right here. It's Not Your Fault, okay? He's got this book, and this is, it's weird, but this is it's thick, but it's smaller, so it kind of fits in your pocket. Take it with you wherever you go. But this is about kids surviving divorce. Going through the hassles of your parents getting divorced. And it's a practical guide to navigating the pain and problems from your parents' divorce. Can't say it much, any better than that. And this is, where it all starts, because I always said, and I still do, that, okay, as adults, we have all these kind of problems and issues, but don't let your kids suffer and pay for it because of your dumbass mistakes. Including me. Everybody, we all make mistakes, but sometimes we think we're doing the right thing, and after it's said and done, it's really not. And when all this stuff is out of their control. So Joey's got a book. He's a product of divorce. So he's speaking, most people that come from all these things, whether it's mental health, narcissism, narcissistic behavior, all these people normally come from those avenues, being somehow, that they were thrown into it, a part of it, a subject of it, a victim of it, however you want to put it. And you can't get any better than the people that know. That's the only way you get it. It's called experience. Unfortunately, it's a tough experience, but it's experience. And he's got this book, and we're going to talk to him next week about this. It's kind of like a kid's manual, or book to help them through it. But after looking at it, it's like, as parents, you should probably read it too, so you don't make these mistakes and end up in the book. Just saying. Next week, Wednesday, August 24th, Joey Pontarelli, author, It's Not Your Fault, about children and divorce. And that's next week. Hope everybody's doing good, because I'm getting revved up right now. We're going to bring her on in just a couple minutes. I want to remind you, I love you guys for watching the Peter G Show, and I always encourage you to have a seat and watch. But if you can't watch the Peter G Show, remind you that you can find us on podcast. We're on 25 different platforms now. Every couple of weeks, it's going up. It's getting bigger and bigger. But you can put it in your ear. Take it with you in the car. If you don't know how to find the Peter G podcast, just Google it. You'll find a whole bunch of them. But, the big ones, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcast, Spotify, anyone you want that you guys subscribe to, listening to music, the podcasts are there. Peter G Show. Just Google it. You can take us on the road with you. Take us in the car when you're working. Again, I can't say that enough. It's like, who wants to be at work? So put an earbud in your ear and listen to a show that interests you. There's over 200 of them of the live, and almost 300 of them in total, of all different stuff. Been there, done that, and still doing it. And we're still all learning and getting through this process called life. Hence, Life with Peter G. We talk about it. And, some things may push your buttons. Some things you may say, oh, I didn't, I don't like what he's got to say. Sorry. You're more than welcome to come on and help me out. But we just try to do what we do in hopes that somebody gets affected in a good way. And remember, you're not alone. We're all here just sharing stories. People think like, why me? Why me? It's not just you, believe me. And that's why we talk about this stuff. All right, moving on. I'm about ready to bring Katie on. I don't know about you, so I hope everybody's all settled in, ready to rock. I'm ready to rock. And without further ado, Katie, you ready? Nod your head for me. Okay, she's ready. She's ready. She's ready to get down with some health and wellness. Ladies and gentlemen, I found her not too long ago, and I started looking into her and seeing what she does, and she's been doing it for quite a while. And it sparked my interest to finally contact her, and because it seems like she knows what she's talking about in her position, of what she's doing with health and wellness. And no better way to talk to somebody who kind of knows what they're talking about. That'd be good, because I'm just the show host. Don't listen to me. But that's why we bring the professionals in here. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, our new friend of the show. It's Katie Chapmon. How are you?
Hi, I'm good tonight. How are you?
I made it.
Yeah, I think we all did.
I made it. I'm happy as hell. We're here. We are. When we hit go and everything starts going and working, it's like, I mean, there's still plenty of time for a train wreck, but at least it's a good start. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what life is, right? Life with Peter G. Always time.
It's a roller coaster. I'm not, I don't sugarcoat a lot of stuff. I mean, we like to have fun, but there's times when it's kind of heavy. It's kind of hard because life is kind of hard. But I always tell them, we're all in this together, and a lot of people don't have support, even in health and things like that. And so you're kind of like a support factor. People can contact you and you can help them get to where they're going. But let's talk real quick. Why don't you tell everybody, everybody a brief synopsis of like who you are, what you do, how long you've been doing it, and why you do it. I mean, just give everybody a quick hello. You can do it. I got you.
Thanks. My name is Katie Chapmon. I'm a registered dietitian, and I've been a registered dietitian for 14 years now, so quite some time. And my areas of expertise are bariatric nutrition, gut health, and hormone health. Some of those all together, and some of those each their own separate thing. But and you mentioned award-winning. I was the Young Dietitian of the Year for the state of California, and then also won an Excellence in Practice award for the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and that was national. So couple awards under my belt.
The reason I said it is because I saw that, and look, an award's an award. You have, what's the competition? I mean, there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of dietitians, correct?
Yes.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Right, so that says something. I mean, there's no shame in that. And I said, okay, I'm going to give you that title because you earned it.
Thank you.
So you've been doing this for a while, but you don't really do this out of an office. I mean, you're kind of like the way the world has gone now. You can kind of handle anybody from any place doing what you do, correct?
For the most part, yes. There's some let's say like licensure rules with being a dietitian, but I am virtual and I can see people in most states. So
that's a good thing.
There's some certain states.
Yeah, you don't have to go everywhere to be everywhere, which is a great thing.
Just so wonderful.
And that helps. I can see where that would help. But I mean, there's some topics here that are on your website that, I mean, even for me, the minute I saw it, it was like, okay, they hit some. As I'm getting older, you start paying attention to things like this. Whether you do something about it or not is another story. But the thing is, I saw some bullet points that kind of made me go, okay, here's some things that I know that will hit almost everybody that's over 35 or 40, I would think, unless I'm, could start younger, but I would think that, then some major changes start happening to some, not all. But little things like the importance of gut health. Huge, I think.
Huge, yes.
I never realized how important that is, that it affects everything else. Explain that a little bit, if you would, please.
It's incredible. It's one of the major natural detoxification centers of our whole entire body. So imagine all the different things that your body does. Your gut is one of those major kind of centers of exit strategy, detoxification, and it's the gatekeeper for what goes in. So what nutrients are coming out, how your body is using them. And then I think the last part is the gut-brain connection. So, your neurotransmitters, which are those hormones that are made like in your brain to say, hey, I'm happy or I'm sad or my mood shifts. Most of those are connected to the gut. So
get out.
Yes. Yeah. So serotonin. So think serotonin, which is our happy hormone. About 92% of serotonin is made in our digestive tracts. Crazy.
Well, it is. I mean, because only recently, I'm starting to pay more attention. Like I take a probiotic now and then. Pepsi, my psych. Oh, by the way, Pepsi's not here today. I forgot to mention that, and it's nice and quiet around here. I'm on vacation a little bit, but he'll be back soon. But the thing was, my Ed McMahon, my Pepsi, he's kind of been taking all these certain things, and he turned me onto this probiotic and it's like 100 million IC or whatever it's called.
CFUs.
100 billion. It's 100 billion or something like it. It's like way up there. And he was swearing because I've been again, as I'm getting older, I just having little acid reflux issues or something, things that never used to happen. And that's the problem. I used to eat like a lawnmower, and as growing up, and before I used to go and play because I was a musician most of my life, I could eat I could pig out and it wouldn't affect me. Now I would refrain from eating. If anything, just take a couple of bites because it'll just take me down. Things have changed.
Yeah.
So he's like, this is what you need to take. You really need to take this. You're having some issues with this and that. And I've been taking it. Now I can't tell. It's been a couple of months now since I switched to what he told me to go for. It was like a really high, like it's got to stay refrigerated. I mean, it's a high-end probiotic. And, but I mean, do those things, I mean, how much help do those things really do when you're still leading a normal life? Or do you have to really make some major changes and figure out how to make those changes?
Ooh, okay. Great question, but a
All right.
lot to it.
Hey, we got an hour.
We're going for it. So I'm going to say yes and no. So first of all, if a probiotic, if it's useful, it goes by CFUs, which is colony forming units. And so typically they're going to be in billions and usually between 100 billion and 500 billion. And so if a probiotic is useful for you, you'll know usually in about 4 to 6 weeks if it's helpful. So that's kind of one thing that I typically look for. If you're having some sort of issues, it could be that you need to add a probiotic. Also, it could be that something else is happening. Maybe you have a little bit of imbalance, what's called gut dysbiosis. So maybe there's too many people at the party. Okay. So we kind of have to clear that out a little bit, and you want to do that in a different way. And for you with acid reflux, I kind of think of a couple other things that also could be happening in terms of just more acid going up your esophagus rather than down the digestive tract. So it might be a switch of a probiotic because there's multiple strains. So I'm sure if you look at yours, there's multiple strains in that probiotic. There's a couple different listings in there. So there's certain ones that are going to be more helpful for acid reflux and other ones that are not as helpful.
Huh. It wasn't even, so you're telling me that I thought 100 billion, what is it, IFUs?
CFUs. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought that because if you look at over-the-counter stuff, things you buy at the store, they're in the tens of thousands or whatever. There's nothing there. When he showed me this, I go, wow, this is really pretty, and it's a powder, and I just take a little quarter teaspoon or something every morning with it, and I just figure, well, I guess it can't hurt me, although I guess some things can if you don't know what you're doing. But and so now you're telling me there's more than 100 billion, like 100 to 500 billion. I thought I was way over the top.
Yeah. No, I mean, usually, so think those are just tiny, tiny little bacteria molecules. So they are going to be coming in billion doses instead of millions. So usually you'll see them in billions. So even over the counter stuff will usually be, it might be 1 billion.
Yeah.
But I would want, if it's a multiple strain, you're usually having several billion of those multiple strains, which is where you get into the higher numbers.
Wow. Okay. Because I mean, it's not only the acid reflux. There's times I'm going, I just feel bloated a lot of sometimes. I'll eat a little bit, and he's going, man, take this. He says, I had a friend, the minute he started taking this, he noticed a difference right away. I'm on my second month, about almost 2.5 months. I don't feel that much different, but I figure it can't be hurting me.
Mm-hmm. Well, so if it's not helping you with that high a dose, I want to check it's not making anything worse. So if it's making things worse, then stop. Yeah. If it's not making anything worse, then I would keep it, but we got to figure out something else that's going to help or going to address the bloating. So a couple things that kind of come to mind a little bit with let's say the bloating part of the house for people is I sometimes will use a couple of different kind of herbal combinations that will include garlic, oregano, or oil of oregano is usually saying those are probably my top two that I pick for bloating. I sometimes will think through maybe a fiber or even what's called a symbiotic, which is a little bit different than a probiotic. So that adds a pre and a probiotic together called a symbiotic. And just think a probiotic adds people to the party. and a prebiotic feeds the people at the party that's already there. So it's like appetizers and such.
Who doesn't love a party? You know.
Right.
It's just- well, see, I don't know. I mean, you know, basically, I need to slow down on eating. You know, because I still love to eat, but because I like foods, and I'm getting older, it's getting harder to be that guy. You know, and more exercise needed. I'm not getting as much. Lifestyle of this show has changed a lot of things. If I don't get up in the morning and get out there, then you know I'm heavy back. It's like, well, I got things to do, and exercise takes a back seat. But let's talk. Okay, you said gut health and all this stuff, but we're talking about bloating and all that, and associated weight gain as we get older. People gain weight. You do a lot with that, from what I understand. I mean, how does that all play into what you do?
Yeah, so I honestly, I look at if our gut's not working, our hormones not working, our sleep isn't working, our stress isn't working, that's going to all affect weight. Those are some major players in what our body does. And so just think of it like our body's putting a puffy jacket on. If things are not detoxifying, or if we're not getting rest where we like basically reboot, then our body's going to really not want to budge anything. So over time, it's kind of like a domino effect. So we get to see kind of like themes come up, such as the bloating, such as the gut health, such as the change in hormones for both males and females. And so all of that kind of comes together with weight. Big part of the picture.
It's a big part, but I mean, look, as everybody gets older, I mean, I'm going to go back to Pepsi again. Pepsi is a trial case study, a scientific study, because he definitely does everything opposite what you should do when you get older, and yet it still gets up every day, still is, you know, pretty slim considering, still has a full head of hair, still, you know, it's not even graying that much. I mean, I mean, when this world, you know, if this world ever comes to an end, you know, the only people, it'll be Keith Richards, Willie Nelson, and Pepsi. You know, because I don't know how he does it. But then there's some of us who are normal that, like, you know, I was pretty healthy guy, and I mean, I'm pretty strong guy and all that, but it's getting tougher. So weight gain, but you see it with people early on. I mean, I got lucky. I held out for a good bit. Now I'm starting to need some work, but people start gaining weight at, you know, in their 30s. More, and then do you deal with a lot of, you know, weight, manage a lot of people for weight gain? They come to you. I mean, what are some of the biggest issues that if people were to call you, they're going, "Hi, my name is Peter. I'm calling you because
usually I do deal with weight gain. Absolutely. Yes. So, but I always take a whole person approach. So sometimes I'm going to kind of answer the question a little bit with, the genetic component too. I mean, that is important, but I want to take a really global look at all of the body functions. And that's in part what also a dietitian does. We're looking at nutrition and supporting the body. And so I do help with weight gain too, but it's going to be in the lens, I guess, of all of the other systems as well. So I think most people kind of think or walk in, or they'll even call me and they'll go like, "Hey, you know, you're going to do this and this and this." And I'm going, "Oh, that's part of it. But I'm also going to look at the other factors that can contribute, which will be sleep, gut health, stress." I mean, I'm looking at your life. We're going to get all in there together because I'm a partner of this with you.
I would think in this day and age, the things you're talking about, stress, sleep, life, it's tough.
It's tough.
Most people are struggling, and it's the hustle. Most people, especially I learned from this show, you know, we're talking about divorce and single parenting. You got the grandparents having to take over and raise the daughters, the grandchildren, because so the son or daughter can go to work, or, you know, because they're divorced or they're single parents. And so everybody is stressing. Everybody, I don't know a whole lot of people are just going, "Man, it couldn't be any better," you know? So,
I mean, including myself.
okay, well, Okay, so let's talk about that. How are you? How are you?
Yeah, right.
You're
How am I
doing?
doing?
Yeah. Let's talk about your past.
I don't put myself outside of this box. I have to actually really look at what I have in place because you're not going to get rid of stress. However, what do we have in place to actually help support those stressful times? Or what boundaries do we have to also make sure that there's a routine or there's something for us to have a lesser of a stress response in our body?
In a lot of people's cases, though, that is either vodka, whiskey, or wine.
I know. Which
That's
is
what.
gonna affect your gut health, and it's also gonna affect your hormones.
Of course, we all know it's bad, but it's good.
Totally. Until it's not good.
Okay.
Until it's not, right? So how do we balance this all out? Because it's a delicate balance. I definitely will say, like, okay, what else do we have going on in place? And then also how can we utilize not only food, maybe supplements, maybe looking at timing of day of where your nutrients are happening, so they actually support your energy and your fatigue. Those are all really important parts of this picture, because most of the time it's kind of running throughout our day, and then everything kind of, we land at the end of the day. And so some easy kind of switcheroo on some of that can really, really be helpful in order to preserve energy, and then helps your body stress less.
See, and I kind of get that, but I mean, you turn into kind of you have to ask a lot of questions, I guess, for every individual. So you're almost like a therapist. I mean,
Well, not saying I'm a therapist. It is definitely something different. But I will have to say, we do have to look at all of the different aspects. Mood, how someone relates to food, how they're using food. I mean, there's parts of it that does go into that connection. Because if you really, really think about it, and let's say someone did something before, they followed a particular eating pattern, let's say, followed a diet that they found online. Usually what happens is everyone goes, okay, I followed this thing for about 3 weeks. And then, oh yeah, it was too hard. I couldn't, life got in the way, or it was too hard, or I got bored, or I couldn't cope with it, whatever. Right. And that's usually a cyclical pattern for a lot of people. So we have to approach it differently in order, I think long-term for people. I don't think ever short-term. Because if we're doing it, we're doing it.
But there's a lot of discipline involved in dieting or exercise, all of the above. I mean, until you get to a certain point, the biggest problem I had at one point in my life over the past 10 years was I was so out of touch with staying the way I wanted to be that I didn't want to start, because I knew how awful it was going to be of a start. Man. And a lot of people, I think, it's just I'm going, I can't even imagine getting my ass kicked right now. I mean, starting on a program and going every day or 5 days a week, and that was the hard part. And so you got these people that you're having to talk to, and they, of course, everybody wants to be the picture of health and be as good as they can be, but it's a tough course for some, not all, but
absolutely. But I also think too, it does not have to be awful. It doesn't have to look like that.
Do tell.
It doesn't. So it's most people get something to where they're gonna, everything has to be done now, and it has to look a particular way. But has anyone ever asked you, how does your life look like? When do you get out in the morning? When do you go to bed at night? What happens at work? Do you actually take a lunch? Do you eat a lunch? Do we not have a lunch? And then how do we work your nutrition into actually what your life looks like? So it's really looking at what's going to be individualized for you. And most of the time it's just something that's okay, I got to somehow shove this thing into my already really busy life.
Let me ask you a question. Have you gotten people and they're telling you what's going on and you're looking at them and in the back of your mind or the front of your mind, you're going, holy crap, I don't know where to even begin.
Gosh, I'll have the holy crap moment of like, wow, there's a lot of stuff happening. But I'll know, I do kind of pick some top things of where to begin, because I also want, just know that this is it's a progressive process. So it's not like, yep, okay, one done, yep. Like, wouldn't that be great, right? If we were just like, yeah, I got this thing and I could do it perfectly. I don't know. I don't know who was able to do that. And so you want to also feel like you have wins too. So some might be like, some things that we're going to tweak are going to be more difficult. Some things are going to be easier. And so it's a progressive process with this.
It seems like it's something that when somebody, comes into your world of trying to take care of themselves, that you're with them for more than just weeks. It's months. Am I correct? Or longer? Years?
Yeah. Usually months, sometimes years. Mm-hmm. No, and it doesn't mean that I'm seeing everyone, every week for years. I always again, I'm the partner in this. So I always think, well, we're working together on what makes sense. So maybe our progression or how often we are seeing each other is more frequent at the beginning. And then we want to build in check-ins along time, because also it's great to have someone in your corner that's like, whew, okay, all this stuff has happened. Let's bring you back to focus a little bit. Let's look at this. Let's see what's really easy to keep going, and let's see where the challenges are, and actually have actionable items on those challenges.
What do you think when you say challenges? What do you think are some of the biggest challenges, the more often occurring challenges with both men and women? I guess I didn't ask you whether you deal with more men than women, but I would think it's a problem with both. It's just a matter of who has the guts to say they need help.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement too. So I think some of the challenges that I typically see is that I usually see that most people during the day, they'll get so busy with work that they won't actually stop to eat, to breathe even. I see sleep is a really, really big issue, and kind of not having a really nice setup sleep habit, so their body even knows when it's time to sleep. And those are probably the top two challenges that I see globally. And then I definitely see like individual challenges, like if there's kids involved, and trying to think through like family dinners, and are you going to eat separate, or like how does that look? Are you eating together? Do you sit down together? So there's some things definitely kind of across the board with that.
I can see sleep. I mean, sleep deprivation is a killer. I mean, I saw, I've seen firsthand. I mean, the brain fog and on people, and they're just having trouble. And exactly that, juggling the kids, just stress, all the above, and then not sleeping on top of it. And it's like your brain starts turning into Swiss cheese. You're just not thinking, on top of on your game. But the eating. I've seen people. I mean, there's people that are overweight that skip lunches and all that, but yet they're still heavier. And it's like, so it's not that they're overeating, or are they overeating, or they're just eating badly, or the body's just, I don't know how that functions, but I'm sure it's all the above. But
yeah, so a couple of different things that could happen. Like people say like, oh gosh, I hardly eat, or I don't really eat all day, and I eat fine. Like I eat fine at night, or I snack a whole bunch at night, and that's how their eating pattern is. And just think of it like this: like if your body's trying to break and utilize those nutrients, one, it's getting a lot all at once. So that's kind of like information overload. So it takes a lot to break that down and to balance that out. And then you have the distribution part too. So because the pattern isn't to eat most of the day. So do we need to hold on to those nutrients in case you eat or not eat? And so that's where a lot of that signaling can come into play of how your body is utilizing food, nutrients, and food overall.
No, I can see it. I mean, again, when you're younger, I used to get yelled at by my mother or whatever. It's like, sit down, and I was running, but my body was a lot different, and it could handle all that.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely
now
changes.
it's different. It's
Yeah.
different now. And I'm not saying, because I still eat, well or whatever, but it's still having mid problems. It's getting to be a problem, and it's like, I just can't keep it off, and it's like, how hard do I have to work at it? And the answer is pretty hard. But are you getting mostly men or women on average on who's coming to you for help? Because I'm thinking guys will not.
So mostly women. That's true. Mostly women come to me for help.
Sure.
And most of them are usually coming actually first for hormone issues or gut health issues, and then weight's a part of that. So my primary focus isn't to walk in and be like, okay, I just need to lose weight for a reunion, because that's not how I work. But they're typically, most people are coming in to see me because of something that's going on that they've been struggling with for quite some time.
You brought me right into where I was going next. Hormones.
Yeah.
Hormones are a son of a gun. They're tricky little devils. They're great. They're great when you're young. Everything's raging and everything's working properly, and sometimes working too much, and then all of a sudden things just start getting wacky. Where do you start with hormones? How do you figure them out?
Oh gosh. Well,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're asking all the really great but tough questions tonight. It's wonderful. So, just hormones, think of them like messengers within the body. So they're kind of saying, hey, do this, organ, one of your organs do this, liver do this. So how do I approach it? Well, one, I absolutely will typically do a hormone metabolite test, which is a functional test that uses urine samples to be able to see how hormones are breaking down, and then if any of them are essentially out of whack. So that's actually one really, really easy spot for me to start with. And that's for males, females. Definitely can feel that hormones are off in that way. So that's actually where I usually begin, is to get some data and to get some testing on what exactly is going on. And not only if something's high or low, but how is it properly breaking down? Is it using the proper breakdown pathway within the body?
Because if you go to doctor, most people start off at their general practitioner, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You go to your doctor, and then they go, well, I want some blood work and give me a urine sample and this and that. Are they looking for things like this? Because I doubt it. There's so many things you can look for that they're looking for the general, are you going to die stuff?
Yeah.
So how do you begin? How do you, it's like they have to steer you in that direction, don't they?
What, general practitioner steering in that direction?
Steering them to, like, you got issues. I want you to go see this person or that person.
Sometimes, not always. Most people are Google searching for hormone health and help, because typically if you go to a general practitioner, you're going to get serum levels, which are useful and helpful, but they're taking that depending on which test it is, they're taking a snapshot picture of what's happening within your blood right now. And as hormone levels change and alter, you're actually wanting to create not only much more of a snapshot, but is anything on a regular basis not being broken down properly, which is why I use functional urine testing. And then on the flip side, I also use microbiome testing too, to take a look at the gut because the gut's the last place that hormones break down. That's their way to the trash or the recycling. So I actually use both.
I mean, the reason why I'm asking you this is because
Yeah.
how do you know? I mean, growing, not everybody's like, can pinpoint like, I need to focus on my hormones.
Right.
I mean, most people go like, I just feel like shit,
They
you
just
know?
feel off.
right? And so
Mhm.
you go to the doctor and nobody goes like, we need to focus on, I want you to focus on my hormones. Because how do you know? It's hormones, there's just so many different parts of your body that could be not functioning, thyroid, this and that. I
Mhm.
mean, where do I guess my question is like, how are people, you're telling me people are just Googling, going and finding you? I mean,
Mostly, which is which is crazy. I mean, that's why I'm like, mostly. I do have. I mean, I will say I do have some physicians that absolutely refer out to me. Most or some people my way, most definitely. But I a lot of people are just Googling because maybe they have gotten blood work or tests back and everything looks normal, quote unquote normal. I should say that, quote unquote normal, but they feel off or they feel like, no, gosh, this isn't all feeling correct. And sometimes people will know that, gosh, something's changing and my hormones feel off because of certain signs. Maybe their mood shifts or change, and that's like a cyclical pattern. So every month they're like, oh, my mood changes, or I get a headache, or I'm more fatigued. And so that can be just, again, for male and female, that they're noticing things just don't feel right. That's what I look for hormone. And then the gut part, I'm looking for like any bowel movement changes, or what does that look like? Bloating, gas, acid reflux. And so that helps to pinpoint.
when you're talking hormones, is that including
Mhm.
like testosterone for men and estrogen for women? That considered all in the
Mhm.
same bucket?
Yeah. So what I'm typically looking at is estrogen, progesterone, testosterone for both males and females, because both males and females have all three. And then I'm also looking at what makes those hormones, what
Right.
creates them, and how they break down. So yeah.
I mean, and I don't know. I've seen people like some guys, and they go, "Yeah, I'm getting testosterone," or they're getting the implants into like little pellets in their thighs or whatever. And I don't know. I've always been skeptical. I don't know how good or bad that is, how safe it is or not safe, or does it really make a difference? I mean, I've never, because I've never experienced it. Because as far as I know, I'm okay, kind of, but yet there's
Mhm.
always room for improvement. It's like I don't know what I'm missing because I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I think if it's the I don't know question, talk to someone like me to actually go through your health history and really take a close and global look at every part of this. And absolutely, I can help navigate of where to begin. If you're talking hormones and testosterone just in general, and let's say you go to your physician, blood work gets done, and there's lower testosterone levels, then there might be the suggestion of pellets or injections, and that might be helpful for some people. It's not helpful for everyone across the board. It might also be useful to absolutely take a look and see of the metabolite testing and to see how it's breaking down and being used.
Speaking of testing,
Mm-hmm.
when they come to see you, do you send them off for tests? Like, say, I need you to go get this, and this, or you don't do that personally, correct?
So I do two tests actually, in their at-home test. So I actually will send them to people. One's a urine metabolite test for hormones. The other one looks at gut microbiome and intestinal health. And that's an at-home stool test. So I actually send those to my clients to do and send back to the lab. And then I get the results and we go through those together in detail. Have a plan of action from that.
Gotcha. Okay, that's
Yeah.
kind of convenient because
Really cool.
lately the way everything's been going with the people freaking out on COVID and not enough workers and trying to get into a doctor's office has been kind of a challenge lately. It's getting better,
Mhm.
but at least okay. So you make that easier. I got another
Mhm.
question that's on your thing. bariatric nutrition.
Yep.
What does that mean?
So bariatric surgery, which most people are going to think of as like weight loss surgery or gastric bypass or a sleeve gastrectomy. And so that's kind of one of the other main components of what I do is bariatric nutrition. So surrounding that surgery, preparation, and then follow up with that surgery, and so many things involved with that: nutrient needs, vitamin and mineral deficiencies, and needs for that. And so that can kind of go along with the weight loss part of the house too.
Do you? Okay, so it's weight loss surgery. So that's like what, like when they put an elastic band around your stomach and things like that?
It's one of them. There's actually about 11 different surgeries currently performed. So that's why I was like, those are one of them. So usually the most common or thought of ones is like a gastric bypass, a sleeve gastrectomy, or an adjustable gastric band, which is what you're talking about, where they put a band around part of the stomach.
But I've seen people that have gotten those surgeries and they lost a bunch of weight, and then slowly they started gaining weight again. I mean, so it's like, no, they were happy for about 2 years, you know, and then I mean, so is it really like it really depending on them? It's not something that like when you get it done, no matter what you do, you're going to stay skinny because you just can't eat anymore. You know, it slows down everything you do. No?
Yes. So let's talk about this further, because I think a little bit of misconceptions of how surgery works, quote unquote works. And so, absolutely there's a change in how someone is eating. Absolutely. There's a smaller amount that goes in, and there's some decision making that comes with that because of smaller amount to make sure your nutrient needs are being met. However, on the flip side, how most surgeries work, they're metabolic surgeries. So they do change hormones such as insulin resistance, insulin control. They change the hormones that are released by the pancreas for digestion and use and how food is used. So it's not a just, okay, you're going to just eat less and that's how it works. There's much more that happens within the body. At this point, I've seen about 8,000 people go through surgery. So I know for me, I have a much broader depth of just frame of reference, let's say. So I've seen kind of everything under the sun, but there can absolutely be some weight gain or weight regain. There cannot be weight gain or weight regain. I've seen both sides. And so again, I'm going back and I'm taking a look at what are we supporting everything that is happening after surgery. And additionally with that, is your surgery, are you still responding to surgery? Or do we need other things and other methods that go along with it? Because with someone with obesity, those tissues, so those adipose tissues, act as part of the endocrine system. So they will be releasing information about storage of extra energy or extra calories. And so that's in part of where some of kind of the weight loss surgery is helpful, because it changes that. But also at the same time, we have to look at it in a little bit different way. Long answer. Sorry.
No, it's okay. People need to know this stuff, because I'm sure people consider it every day. Who goes and gets these surgeries more, men or women, or is it about the same?
Mostly women. About, I think, if I'd have to take a look at most updated data, but I think it's about 60% women and 40% men.
Gotcha.
That get surgery.
And out of those men and women, I mean, or even out of both of them, because you said you've seen about 8,000 of these surgeries. That's a lot. So that's a good. You got to have a good gauge from that. Who is keeping it off? I mean, how long do you keep track of these people, or do you know, and to show the success rate of how long that it's being successful for them?
So loaded question. So I definitely can keep track of people for a long time. So I have seen people who are like 20 years out from surgery.
Wow.
So I have seen that kind of like reference of years and years later. And so I think where I struggle with is a little bit of like what success is, because success might not always be weight related. It might be less weight, but man, my health profile is amazing. And that's what success is. So that's where I'm kind of like, well, if you're just talking about weight and weight gain, like, gosh, it's a bell curve. It's really, I don't have one really quick, straightforward answer for this. It's probably because I've just seen so many people go through this incredible process, and I mean, I'm around for all of it. So I've seen kind of everything. That's what makes it tough is I think most people will be like, oh, I know this one person and this is their experience. And that's where I struggle a little bit because I'm like, out of all these people,
Well, I guess if you say, how do you define happiness? I mean, that's kind of the same thing. You could be skinny and miserable, or you could be, but it's not about, but a lot of people, it's a mental screw. They want to be thin but yet, are you thin and healthy, or are you thin and you've turned into a mess? I guess that it could go that direction, go against things, right?
Absolutely. Or I mean, just think of it like with anything, like if you do this one thing, do you think, my gosh, if you change your hair color, do you think like everything else is going to change too? Like now all of a sudden you're going to have a, relationship, and all of a sudden you're going to be able to like have positive communication with other people. Like there's things that still have work to be done, just because there's maybe a difference in shape or appearance.
Well, again, the only reason I brought that up is because I noticed that you do specialize in that too. But I saw bariatric nutrition, and I thought there was something different that about that. But that's all about making sure that they stay healthy while they're going through this process, because it could be a plus or a minus for them either way going through it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So sorry to cut you off. I'm just like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And also long term too, because it is the long term part of it. Like most of the time, surgery, surgery is a surgery, and it's a big deal, and it's definitely calculated for leading up to the surgery and after the surgery. But like as years out happen, and just as you're mentioning, change in age equals change in body.
Yeah.
That also happens too. So, I mean, but there's just nuances to surgery itself that, from experience, and practice, like that someone like I'll be more aware of than someone who doesn't specialize in this.
Gotcha. What's happening here right now is that is happening to us is time is quickly flying. We're almost out of time. Before I have a few more minutes, but I want to put up how people can get a hold of you if they want to speak to you more about this, related subject, because gut health, all of the above. But if you want to find Katie Chapmon, you can go to www.katiechapmon.com.
That's correct.
Simple enough.
This way.
That's simple enough. I like it. But and again, that you talk to people from all over the country, and so it's not like I need to make sure she's in my area. You're in the Los Angeles area, but this is for people that you have the ability to take care of people from almost anywhere.
Yeah, almost anywhere, and by all means, I am well connected. So even if we talk and let's say there's some restriction and it's usually state-wise. For my licensure, like we'll talk through it. That's not a problem. And I can always connect you with someone that I know. So Please reach out. I just want to help.
People. So, it's like, so how to refer people if you can't do something, or even if you can do something, how to get them into better hands or different hands that can help them even more.
Absolutely.
Right there, www.katiechapmon.com. Is it safe to say that... Not even safe to say. We started off with this conversation almost an hour ago about gut health, and I want to circle back. To gut health because to me it seems like the whole as I'm learning things, and again, I could be wrong, but it seems like that's the big start of the biggest problem from within. Am I right in that? Is it in this area that really everything starts, cooking and malnutritioning or overbioticking or whatever?
Yeah, there's a lot that happens in that one area. You're exactly right. Just
Yeah.
think that like that gut is going to connect to the brain. It is digesting your food. It is taking in nutrients. It is making some decisions about those nutrients. So a lot happens through that digestive tract. And so over time, it's like a domino effect. We might, have been fine younger, and then you mentioned antibiotic use, like that definitely changes how things are in there if you take an oral antibiotic. And then just how someone eats, lives, where they live, all those different things can just domino and affect what's going on in there. So might have to check it out.
No, fair enough. Because again, mental health is a whole different subject, but you're saying that a lot of this can affect mental health. So it's a double-edged sword right there, because I know plenty of people that have mental health issues. I mean, that whether it be, just psychological or physical, and I mean, I got mental health issues. Look at me. I'm a mess. But here we are. The thing is, and so to me, it's like you don't know what you don't know, and you just think everything is normal, and that's the way it is. So so getting, and you're thinking like, why am I depressed, or why do I feel like crap? I just don't feel like moving, and you're thinking it's all in your head, because your body's not really hurting or anything. You just feel like lackadaisical, but it's all a lot of times starting from down here.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. Yeah, and if just something doesn't feel good, that's when you should reach out. It just doesn't feel good. I mean, there's no reason, and you don't have to feel awful. I think that's the other thing, is like people won't reach out unless they feel awful. Like, you could just not feel good and just realize things are not exactly like on par.
Again, everybody's not 20 anymore. In those days, there's days when I wake up, and then we're gonna have to call it a day. Unfortunately, God, time goes quick. But there's days when I wake up and I'm going, why can't I feel like this every day? I'm feeling pretty good, like just really smooth. Like I'm not like over the top, but I'm not feeling like I'm just not getting nothing done, and I don't feel like getting anything done. And it's just like, then the next day it's like, here we are back to like, what the hell happened? What was so special about that day yesterday that I'm feeling, like, God, if I could just feel like this, no complaints.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I just look at the pattern. So if it's once in a blue moon, like, we'll all have days that we're just once in a blue moon, it's off. But look at the pattern. If this is happening most days of the week where you're feeling not the best, or that you feel like you could be or feel better, then get that evaluated. Talk to someone. Check in.
I'm calling you up. What's that www.katiechapman.com. Oh, okay. Remember you'll be seeing my email.
Thank you. Yes.
I want to thank you for taking the time. I know you got a busy schedule. We've been going back and forth quite a bit, but I want to thank you for taking the time to give to my audience, because to me, it's the gift that keeps on giving. This show will last, into infinity, and it amazes me, like the snowball effect on things like this, that whoever's watching now, God bless them, but there's the after effect. They pick it up later. They listen to it on podcasts. And this is just information that I know triggers a lot of people's interest. And you were kind enough to come on this show and just, talk about the pros and cons about this stuff. So I thank you very much for taking that time to do it.
Well, thanks for having me. This has been so much fun.
I told you to go by
so quick.
It went by quick. Maybe perhaps we'll be in next year before you know it, and maybe sometime next year we can touch base again, because again, we're never reaching everybody, and it's so important to get those that have not, you can't watch everything. I'm living proof of it. I got people that are close to me. I can't watch their shows. I don't have time, and it goes vice versa. So we're always reaching somebody, and maybe, perhaps in the future, if you're up for it, if you, after the show, you didn't say, no, lose his number.
No. It would be my pleasure to come back. Just let me know if it's interesting for you and your audience. I'm here.
Listen, it's life, and we're living in it, and everybody wants to live their best life, but you got to feel good. If you don't feel good, I don't care how much money you have. It doesn't mean shit. And that's the truth. I mean, I got plenty of wealthy people that I know, and some are not so good, and they, you just can't buy your health, unfortunately.
No, not at all.
But you can enhance it. It does. Unfortunately, and this is the sad part, to eat healthy and all that, it does take money to be able to eat better than all the cheap stuff. Like you can get a 2 liter of soda for, well, it's gone up now, but it's for $1.50. And yet you try to buy you try to drink decent water, and it costs you way more than a whole 2 liter of sugar. So these are the problems we face, and it's hard as people, and people are struggling. So. But any little bit of extra knowledge, I mean, and sometimes you have to decide where you want to put your money. And most people spend money where they want to, whether it's on drugs and alcohol or, health and wellness, whatever. I got, so I thank you for taking the time. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, if you want to get in touch with Katie, you can go to www.katiechapmon.com. She's there. She'll take care of your emails and phone calls, and you have all that contact information on there.
Oh, yeah.
And you have lots of information on there too, as well, and testimonials and things like that from what I saw on your website too. Correct?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Well, you tell everybody bye, and then unfortunately I'm going to have to let you go. I still got a bunch of questions, but we'll have to leave it for another time. But again, you did a wonderful job, and we all thank you for our show here.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Everyone have a great, fantastic night.
All right. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Katie Chapmon. And again, thank you very much. I love you for doing this. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Bye.
All right. Bye. There you have it, folks. Katie Chapmon right here on this show, giving you information that, you should take to heart. Because as mentioned, we are not all bulletproof. And it gets harder as you get older. It definitely gets harder. And, I mean, as such as myself, I'm still as much in love with living as I was when I was, 20. I love life. I like living, and I appreciate life. And I want to stick around and just, I want to do more damage. I want to keep doing this show. I love what we do. And when I get people on here to do this kind of stuff, to contribute, to help you, we're sharing stories, all this, it's worth every second of the work that goes involved in doing this. Again, doing the 1 hour part's the easy part. It's everything before the show and after the show, and it's wash, rinse, repeat every week right here on the Peter G Show. But you can get a hold of Katie Chapmon. I'm going to just let you see it one more time, www.katiechapmon.com. She can help you if you got, again, hormonal issues, weight loss, gut health. And again, gut health leads, to mental health. It's all tied together, which, who would have figured? But it's the truth. So I hope this helps you. Hope this, don't forget, you can, if you didn't have time to watch this show, you can podcast, just Google Peter G Show podcast. You can look it up, sign on to whichever one that floats your boat, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Podcast, and you can listen to it. This was an easy, listenable. Some of these shows, I feel like, I think it's better when you watch it. But there's a lot of shows that, a majority of them, you can listen to it and get just as much out of the show. It's information. Sometimes you don't get the facial expressions and all that, but you've seen this all before, so it's not that big a deal. I love you for watching, but don't hesitate to take it on the road with the podcast. Take it to work with you. Take it, while you're listening, before you go to bed at night. Life is full of choices, and if you've made the choice to watch and or listen to this show, thank you. I want to remind you, next week, before we go here, August 24th, author Joey Pontarelli. Hey, Joey, He's got a book. We're going back to my roots in divorce and single parenting. This is all about the kids. He's got a book called It's Not Your Fault, okay? This is important. I mean, he was a product of divorce. He took his lessons in life and turned it into a positive. Now he's helping kids who are having troubles and struggling through divorces because parents don't always do the smartest things when they're going through divorce. It's, hi, my name is Peter. It's just life. Nobody means to intentionally make mistakes, but they do. And a lot of them make some big ones. So he's got this book, and it's called It's Not Your Fault. It's a practical guide to navigating the pain and problems from your parents' divorce. So we're going to talk to him next Wednesday, August 24th. He's going to be on this show, and we're going to talk to him about his book, and we're going to talk about a lot of the scenarios in this book, a lot of the situations, a lot of the causes, a lot of the problems, a lot of the issues that kids have been going through. It's all in here. It's a good read. It's an informative read. Now, this book is, from what I can tell, catered to kids, reading this book and learning from it that, like, it's okay what they went through. It's not their fault, but this is an excellent book for parents to read, to not make these mistakes, or if they have made these mistakes, how to try and do damage control and not do it anymore. So Wednesday, August 24th, promise you, this is like the soul of my show, talking about this stuff. I want you to be here for it. As always, we're here every week, God willing, and I thank you for watching. We'll be here next week with Joey Pontarelli. And again, I appreciate those who take the time to watch the Peter G Show. I know you have choices, and if you made this choice, I thank you. So, as always, I love you guys. We'll see you next week. Peace out.
Peter G Show. Peter